Yo, what up, a-holes? Thank you for tuning into the Holistic A-Hole podcast. My name is Eric Levi, and I'm the Holistic A-Hole, the mommy blogger with balls, the inconvenient truth of health, and a certified nutritional therapy practitioner. Thank you all for tuning in here to our latest episode, which is going to be undoubtedly a doozy. It's going to be a doozy. And I'm so pumped to talk to you about it. But before I pop into this episode, I first just want to make a couple of announcements here. First announcement is if you are in the New York area, I'm talking New York City, New York State, Long Island, New Jersey, upstate New York, White Bridge. I don't know if that's a real place. What is the one outside the city? Starts with a W. Oh, that one. Schenectady. The Rockaways, Brooklyn, Queens, Philadelphia. If you're in any of these places and you are within a short drive into New York City on February 23rd at 4 o'clock, I will be doing my first ever workshop in the Lower East Side here in Manhattan at a fantastic boot camp gym called ConBody. They've been on all these different TV shows. It's a really awesome spot where it's like they do these workouts like you're in a jail, and it's like a jail, like a prison workout. It's really dope, and the dude who runs it is so fucking badass, and they're letting me do some nutrition workshops there. So if you are in the area and you want to come get a boot camp of nutrition information that personally I think is going to be life-changing, especially if you're a fan of the podcast or you're just trying to get your health together and you're like, how do I get rid of this muffin top? How do I get rid of these man titties? How do I stop sweating so much? Why is my blood sugar crazy? Why am I constipated? Why does my breath stink? Why won't no girls or boys go out with me because I just am not healthy? Well, this is the workshop that you're going to come. It's really going to be like a health show / workshop. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be a lot of fun. So from 4 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, February 23rd. You want to get to the Lower East Side in New York City to ConBody. It's on Ludlow Street. I think it's 121 Ludlow Street. I should really have the information in front of me when I plug it on the podcast. I know, but this is how we do it sometimes. So if you are looking to come see the A-Hole live, come on down to ConBody. No matter where you're coming from, it's going to be a real great time. As the millennials say, it's going to be so dope. So that's my first announcement. Second announcement I want to throw out there is, look, I'm going to be real with you a-holes, okay? I've done a lot of these podcasts, and I'm running out of shit to talk about. I have talked about, this is like 160 something of the podcast. We've done a lot of these things, and I got a lot of things to talk about. I got a lot of great interviews coming up. I got some great people coming on the podcast, but I want to know what you a-holes want to hear about. What is the health topics that are rumbling around in your minds? What are the health issues that you're dealing with? What do you want to know? Do you want to know about blood sugar? Do you want to know about the thyroid? Do you want to know about, the problems with the keto diet? Do you want to know how to lose a stubborn 20 pounds? Do you want to know how to fix your sleep? Do you want to know about the processed food industry? Whatever you want me to talk about, I encourage you to send me an email via Gmail. You can do that. holistic.a.hole@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Facebook. That's, look, I'll be honest. The Facebook page, it's kind of weird the way they have those pages. So if you send me a message, I know some of you have sent me some messages through Facebook, and I've seen them like weeks and months later because I don't know what it is. I just can't get into that inbox. But you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Instagram all the time. They have really addicted me to that app. So if you want to get a hold of me and you are anxious for me to talk about something, I'll do the research and I'll get the information out there. But I just want to know what you a-holes want to hear about. So just shoot me a message, holistic.a.hole@gmail.com. I think you just go holisticahole@gmail.com. You can send it through Facebook, Instagram are the best ways too, and then Twitter, of course, if that is your social medium of choice. And also, of course, if you're going to send me these messages, you got to go follow me on these places. Instagram at Holistic A-Hole, Facebook, Holistic A-Hole, Twitter at Holistic A-Hole. You can join the Holistic A-Holes Facebook group. You can go on to the Holistic A-Hole YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page. We're having a lot of fun over there. And as some of you know, we've been recording these podcasts and then putting them up there on the page. Unfortunately, this podcast, I'm not going to be posting, and then the next podcast I'm not going to be posting. It's just been a busy week. I haven't been able to set up the old studio here. Unfortunately, the old Holistic A-Hole camera crew is fucking a bunch of union retard liberals, and they're striking because I won't pay them. And so, these pretty fingernails can't be getting broken setting up lights and boom mics and, special effects and all this shit. So I'm doing the best I can. You a-holes know that. But what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Go to the YouTube page. Watch the videos. And you guys are doing great. I love it. I've been getting a lot of really fun emails and messages from you guys. You're all the best. So stay in contact. I'd love to talk to you. This is a dialogue. Remember, this is, I might be the mommy blogger with balls, but you guys are you guys are the ones with the ears listening to this. So it's a give and take, right? So yeah, those are my announcements. Come to ConBody February 23rd, and make sure you just communicate with me. Let me know what you want me to talk about. So today's podcast is going to be a little bit more in the, I guess more in kind of like the riff. Sometimes I like to sit down and I like to dish out statistics. Sometimes I like to sit down and quote scientific studies. Sometimes I like to sit down and just kind of go off of the stuff that I'm personally working on. But I want to talk about kind of like a concept today, a thing I've been thinking about. It's been stewing for a little while now, and I find it to be a pervasive problem in the medical industry. And the more that I dive into this world of health, the more I see the reason why the Holistic A-Hole is, and all you a-holes are so necessary to the fight to stop this coming health catastrophe from just tidal waving and destroying our entire fucking infrastructure of humanity, which is this: the appeal to authority fallacy, right? Some of you who are, love watching the old vegan YouTubers, you've probably heard this before. It gets thrown around in the old message boards, the old appeal to authority. And I mentioned the vegan YouTubers because I notice when somebody comes out and they're like, they quote like a study or something. Like the vegans are very they're very hamstrung to the idea that the vegan diet is the only one true diet that won't kill you before you're 90 years old. You can be a vegan and live till 91 and be absolutely miserable, or you can just live a normal life and live to 90 and die with a nice ripped corpse, right? But the appeal to authority is real. It's a real thing, and I'm not just talking about like the diets. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about the medical industry in general. I actually want to read you a quote here from a book I'm reading. And the book is called Overdosed America. It's written by a guy named John Abramson, who was a former general practitioner. He was a former family doctor. Real smart guy. Practice outside of outside Boston, there in Massachusetts. What up, kid? The Red Sox kid. Red Sox picking up Lackey. And Brady, the goat Brady. Gronk, pass the ball to Gronk. Practice outside of Boston, and real smart dude talking about the medical industry and just really the corruption in the medical industry, which of course isn't new to you a-holes. We talk about this all the time, but what he's talking about here is he's making points about how the drugs that people are taking, I'm not talking about the fun drugs. I'm talking about like the diabetes drugs and the Alzheimer's drugs and the liver drugs and all these drugs that people start taking, the statins, right? All these different drugs. How has this shit just absolutely exploded in the last 30 years, really. It's really been 30, 40 years that this stuff has absolutely just been exploding. And I would say, I mean, it's gone into just hyperdrive in really the last, 15, 20 years, you know? You can't like watch a television show, you know, if you're watching television. Do people still watch TV? Is that still a thing people do? I can't imagine, like, if you're watching like TV, do you realize, like, what decade are you living in? You understand you don't have to do that, right? There's other things to watch. But there are people who still watch, like, the nightly news and really think they're getting information. You know, there's people who watch CNN and MSNBC and even Fox News, you know, or the local news. Jesus Christ, the local news. What are we doing? How many hit and runs do I got to hear about before I just become so paralyzed with fear and panic that I can't even walk outside my house to get the newspaper, which is going to be even more bad news about some, you know, firefighter who's fighting, you know, epilepsy or some shit, right? So this is the world. And then you watch the news and then it's like every commercial is for a drug, you know? It's so shocking to me because am I desensitized or sensitized? I don't know. I'm just so sensitive to it because, like, I don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV for years. And if I go out of town and I'm at a friend's house and I flick on the TV, it's like the news, and it's like the first time I've seen the news in years, and just it's always shocking to me to see how many goddamn drug commercials there are. And how, like, the drug commercial, you don't even know what the commercial's about. It's like a guy playing soccer, or, you know, like a couple in a fucking rowboat or something, or like, you know, a couple going out to get pizza, and they're like, you know, I started taking Previtrax, or, you know, what is it, Manafadil, or, you know, Viagra, or Vioxx, or whatever Celexa, or whatever the drug is. And they're like, and then all my problems went away. And then sometimes they don't even tell you, like, what the problem is they had or that the pill solves. It's just like, now my life is better. And then they stop talking, and then 80% of the commercial is side effects, right? Like, there are antidepressant drugs where the side effects are, this may cause suicidal thoughts. Oh, well, great. That's exactly what I need out of an antidepressant. Just suicidal thoughts. You go to your doctor's like, you know, you should take some antidepressants. For what? Well, because you have suicidal thoughts. Oh, well, does the drug give me more suicidal thoughts? Because that's exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you. If not suicidal thoughts, and I just want to be able to shit my pants a little more often than usual. So this is what this book is like about, and it's like, it's not even interesting. It's infuriating. So let me read you this quote here. This quote goes, it starts. This is just a paragraph in the book, and for whatever reason, it just like stood out to me, and I was like, I got to read this to the a-holes. It's not news that medical research has become big business, often with billions of dollars on the line. The problem is that the search for scientific truth is, by its very nature, unpredictable, and this uncertainty is hardly optimal from a business point of view. There is far too much at stake to leave this process to the uncertainties of science. In this context, the role of the drug and medical device companies has evolved so that their most important products are no longer the things they make. Now their most important product is quote-unquote scientific evidence. This is what drives sales. In this commercial conduct, the age-old standards of good science are being quietly but radically weakened, and in some cases, abandoned. So what he's talking about there is he's talking about this phenomenon that has happened where pretty much the drug industries are now the scientists, right? So, like, as I've gotten more into health and holistic health and like just trying to learn about like what these diseases are and what these, you know, like what is heart disease? Where does it come from? How do people get it? And how do people get cancer? And how do people get diabetes? And how do people get Alzheimer's? And, you know, how do people get skin disease and autoimmune disease? Like, I want to know this stuff. And there is, you know, you can go on to PubMed, you can go onto the TRIP database, you can go on to, you know, all these different websites. You know, you can go to nutritionfacts.org. There's a lot of science available out there for us to pull it up. But the crazy thing is so much of the science, it's science because there's people in lab coats with little beakers and test tubes and fucking boilers and shit, and filling needles up with fluid and shooting them in from one thing to another, and then little petri dishes, and they've got the goggles on, and they look like there's science going on. But that science, whatever happens to the science, a lot of times is not being reported on the final report of the science. So a lot of times the science that you read online, especially the science that gets quoted in the fucking mainstream news, if you read science, quote unquote science, if NBC quotes a scientific study, just assume that it's wrong. If CNN quotes a scientific study, just assume that it's wrong. And I don't mean that it's wrong like somebody fucked up the numbers. No, it's wrong because the numbers that were actually the hard data that was found is being misconstrued to mislead people to make the product seem desirable, right? So a great example of this is like the cholesterol lowering drugs, right? So what they'll do is, you'll have these big pharmaceutical companies like Merck, right? Merck will pay for a study, and sometimes, they won't pay for the study. They'll get scientists, and the scientists will do the studies. And typically what they have to do in the study is they have to put like at the bottom of the study, like the conflicts of interest. And, they'll be like, if it's like transparent, they'll say that the head writer on the thing either has no conflicts of interest or will say like has been paid fees from Merck or from Coca-Cola or from Nestle Corporation or from, whatever the food company or the drug company or the beverage company. But sometimes this shit is real sneaky, right? So what they'll do is they'll have these scientists do the study, or sometimes they'll hire like ghostwriters, and they'll take the data, and before the data is even printed, before the data is even reported, the ghostwriters will be hired to basically write like a conclusion, right? And an abstract. And it won't take into account any of the fucking data that got recorded during the actual study, Or they'll take, studies where they'll say, okay, we'll do like a heart, like a cholesterol lowering drug study. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, it'll be like a randomized control placebo, double blind study. And what they'll do is they'll take, 50 people, and 25 will be the control group and 25 will be the experiment group. And what they'll do is they'll give, the 25 the cholesterol statin, the drug to lower the cholesterol, and then they'll give the other 25 a placebo, and they'll be like, okay, well, what happens? And they'll be like, the 25 who took the who took the actual drug, they'll be like, well, look, it worked. Their blood pressure went down, their blood sugar went down. Only like 1 out of 25 had a quote unquote cardiac event. And then in the control group, what they'll say is like 5 or 6 people had heart attacks. So we just got proof now that the drug works. But the shit they won't tell you is that the people in the experiment group are typically people who are less likely to have a cardiac event. Like they'll get like people between the ages of like 30 and 50 who have never had a cardiac event before. So they're at very low risk for having some kind of cardiac event. And then in the control group, they'll get people who are like in their 70s and 80s who have a history of like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, might even be diabetic. They won't put that stuff in the study, or maybe they will put that in the hard data, but in the conclusion and even in the abstract of the study, which is like the summary of the study, they won't report any of that. They'll just report that the findings, what I just told you, that the 25 in the experiment group were much better off than the 25 in the control group. So clearly this drug works, right? And a lot of times you'll find these studies online, and I would say most of the time, I would say probably 6 out of 10 times that you look up for a study, if we're doing the math, that is 60%. Okay, that's not a hard number. That's just like a ballpark. But a lot of the times, most of the times, you'll just find the abstract. And people are living and dying literally off of these abstracts, to justify whatever it is. And this is what a lot of nutrition science is based off of too, whether it's the ketos or the vegans or the paleos, or name your diet. Name your diet craze. Name your supplement that you take. Name your whatever food that you take, Fucking, they'll tell you that whole wheat is healthier than white wheat. Why? Because they'll do some study like this and they'll do exactly what I'm telling you. Because less people ended up with diabetes eating whole wheat after, an 18-month observational study where they'll send out questionnaires, and it's just done so sloppy. And they'll do the same thing. They'll set it up so that it works out exactly what they want, and that's funded by the company. And then so what we do then is the TV station, the news stations or the newscasters, the newspapers, they'll get wind of this and they won't look at the data. They don't even know how to read the data. It's just like, crackpot reporters who just need to make, clickbait headline fucking, articles so they can get paid and not look like a jackass for not getting clicks. And, they'll say new report says that whole wheat's better than white wheat or whatever, right? And so, or whole wheat is better than saturated fat. And they'll put that shit out there. And, what people do is they live and die off that. They don't question. They don't question the abstract. They don't question the report. They just say, oh, see, look, there it is. You know who's guilty of this probably more than anybody else I see? I'll give you two people. I'll give you Joel Kahn. See, if you follow this guy on Twitter, he was the vegan doctor who went on Joe Rogan and debated Chris Kresser a couple months ago, the vegan versus paleo or whatever debate. He just throws all of these studies out there. Like if there is anything out there, if it says like your fingernails grow slower if you eat 5 servings of lettuce a week, he'll put that freaking study out there. And the vegans don't question it. They're like, see, they'll retweet it. They'll be like, see, and eating more lettuce helps. So everybody should be plant-based, right? Because Dr. Joel Kahn put it out there. Because some bullshit study was printed, some abstract that we don't even know. Right? Break down the data. What is the statistical relevance? What is the significance? The statistical significance. What is that? What's the p-value, bro? What is the p-value? What are we talking about with the p-value? Right? That's the probability value. That if it's less than 0.05, if it's more than 0.05, then it's not even statistically, or if it's less than, is it more or less? This shit is like way over my head. If it's more or less, it's like not even statistically significant. Sometimes these studies come out and they prove something, and it's like they'll do something where it's like, they'll demonize something like saturated fat, right? And this, by the way, this is all like, I'm not using like hard numbers. I'm just using like real broad examples. But you can find this all over the scientific food nutrition science world. As soon as your reticular activation is activated to this, you're going to see it a lot more. Where they put these studies out where they're like, they're trying to demonize saturated fat, and they'll say, more people have diabetes from eating saturated fat, right? And then when you like dive into the data, not even including the stuff I just told you where the samples are not even like done right, but the number of people who will get diabetes from eating saturated fat, like they'll take like a group of 1,000, and out of 1,000, like 5 people got diabetes. And so they're like, see, if you eat saturated fat that causes diabetes, more people got diabetes eating saturated fat than didn't eat saturated fat. Yet they won't factor in all of the other things that you could get that could cause you to have diabetes, right? And so the number isn't even statistically significant. It's just more of like a random happening. If you repeated that study, 100 times, it wouldn't even happen to come out like that ever again. But again, this isn't stuff that's even taken into context, okay? So the appeal to authority is that this shit science is thrown out there as gospel. And so all of the people who we just decide are the authority, when they retweet it or when they quote it, the people don't come out and question it. Right. So this is probably a big reason why people are just literally dying. Right. This is why people are just being told information that isn't right. This is why people are failing on the keto diet. They're failing on the vegan diet. They're failing on the paleo diet. They're failing with the statin drugs. Why are people having heart attacks when they are on statin drugs? That's like exactly what's not supposed to happen on a statin drug. Right? Oh, well, my doctor told me to go. So if my doctor says I should be on a statin, then I should be on a statin. No, you fucking idiot. What you should be doing is you should be doing your own research. You should be going, if you are told that you have high enough blood pressure that the only way that you are not going to die within the next year or two is by getting on a drug, how do you not get in your car and drive to the goddamn, library, or drive to the, drive to your internet, just drive to the old internet, drive to your computer, open it up and start doing every little bit of research to figure out what that even means. I don't even know if people even know like what the chemicals are. I know for a fact people don't know what the chemicals are in these statin drugs. The fact that drugs come out and how the drug patents work, and when one patent comes out, the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, will pit a drug against an older drug to make the old drug. This new drug actually works 3 times better than the old drug, and yet what they'll do is they'll give the samples like different amounts of the drug, but they won't like put it in the abstract and the summary. But people don't do this research because they're too goddamn lazy, because the doctor said to do it. Right? And the doctor doesn't know, because the doctor is also appealing to the authority, the appeal to authority fallacy. The drug representative comes in and gives him all the information he needs, And I'm not blaming doctors. I know I'm guilty, very guilty on this podcast of blaming doctors of some real shenanigans. And I think in some regards it's well deserved. I think there's some real bad doctors out there. Then I think there's just doctors who are just flat out overwhelmed, just flat out overwhelmed, and just the amount of data that you have to keep up with, right? To stay up to date on what is the news, what is the science, what is there's hundreds of thousands of studies published every year. It is just pretty much impossible to keep up with that, on top of the fact of trying to maintain a busy office. And holy shit, if they pass single payer healthcare or Medicare for all, and even more people have just unvetted, unlimited access to go see the doctor as much as they can, how is a doctor going to ever be able to do anything other than just, push pills on people? I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's going to be AI. They're going to have AI. It's going to be one of those things where you're going to go to the doctor, there's going to be a doctor, and then there's going to be probably a number of kiosks. And, what you'll probably do is you'll probably punch numbers into a kiosk. It'll ask you a bunch of questions. You'll probably put your hand on a thing. It'll probably take your blood pressure. It'll probably take your pulse. It'll probably, be able to register like how much, how many white blood cells to red blood cells do you have? What's your hemoglobin? What's your A1C? What's your blood glucose? All of these basic tests that we go to the doctors for, that's going to be all AI. There's going to be no point to actually go to a doctor. You just be able to go to the office, pay your little, whatever, toss your Medicare for all card in the thing, and you're going to go up to the machine, and it'll probably be like a 10-minute, survey thing, and you'll do it, and then it's going to be like, here is your drug. And it'll pop out a prescription, and then you'll go, you probably don't have to go to a pharmacy. You'll probably just have a pharmacy in the doctor's office, and they'll just pop you out the pill. And then, that pill, again, is just the thing that is written based on a study that was written by the pharmaceutical company. And again, you don't question it because you got it from the AI kiosk. So the AI kiosk has to be right because the AI kiosk saw you for 10 minutes, and it knows you better than you know you, so you better take that pill, because if you don't, you're gonna die. And little do we know that, you might not die. Yeah, we might be keeping people alive like 20, 30 years longer than we did I don't know, 100 years ago, but man, that is not a pretty 20, 30 years, right? For a lot of people, man, when you hit 60, some of you, when you hit 70, when you hit 80, like it gets real ugly. And let's be honest, for a lot of people now, it's when you hit fucking 30. There's 25-year-olds who have chronic health conditions. There's fucking 15-year-olds with chronic pre-existing health conditions, like real bad health conditions. I saw a report. I'll probably do a podcast about this from good old NBC News. And no, it wasn't pushing like Pharmaceutical. It was just like, look, man, there are more millennials have more obesity-related cancers than people in that age group have ever had in the history of humans. There was a long time where I don't think cancer even existed. It was like such a small rate of people got cancer. It was so rare. And now it's like, how do you not have cancer by the time you're 30? Oh, well, the doctor says that to take that medication, that the doctor says that it's okay to eat cheeseburgers and pizza and cotton candy. So that's what I do. As long as I take my magic pill, it will keep me alive. And I don't question it because that's just why would I question the doctor? He went to medical school. Oh, and the other thing that's really interesting is in the context of like family doctors. I didn't realize this, but family doctor, that is like the D League of doctors. Isn't that crazy? Like when you're in medical school, like think for a second about like what doctors go through. And if you're a doctor, again, please don't take offense to this. I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to be a dick to you, like talking about you. I mean, you have a hard job. I respect like the fact that you have to deal with these serious problems, but goddamn, man, like the whole system just fucking blows, but like people going through medical school, has medical school ever sounded easy to anybody? There's a reason why I didn't go to medical school. There's a reason why most people I know who could have gone to medical school, like didn't, because it's fucking hard and it's expensive and and it's a long time. You go to medical school for what? Like, I mean, you can go for 4 years. I think a lot of people go for 8 years. You got to do like residency for a couple years. You got to do all of these tests, and that's not like 8 years of like, oh man, just hey, hanging out in college, just partying. That's like 8 years of stressful like cramming, studying, no sleep, hair falling out, relationships falling apart, erectile dysfunction, eating junk food, and going to medical school and not having any money. Right? Because by the time you leave medical school, you were probably six figures in the hole. And you don't go and just become a general practitioner. You go and you become a specialist. You become an ENT, ear, nose, and throat. Or you become a surgeon. Or you become a podiatrist. Or whatever the specialty is, because you can make more money doing that. And the people who go into the general practitioner, that's like kind of embarrassing. It's like, oh, well, I get to put fucking popsicle sticks in people's throat and look at disgusting tonsils, people's balls in the back of their throat. Yay. That's what I get to do. Oh, and you have to see people like at their absolute, shittiest, right? Because they don't respect you. They don't. People don't why you should totally respect a general practitioner, because they got to know fucking everything, man. They have to know everything. They have to know everything from why you have strep throat to why you the arch in your foot hurts for no reason. Right? That's very difficult. And then they have to know enough to be able to get you to the next place. And this is why people go through these just endless circles of just going to one doctor, to another doctor appointment, to another doctor appointment. So I mean, hey man, if you're a GP, my goddamn highest respect. You deal with shit, and I would be willing to say that very soon technology is going to totally displace you. And that might not be the worst thing, right? That might not be such a bad thing. If they're going to do this Medicare for all thing, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do it, right? Because this medical system we have right now, it is just so unsustainable. I'm not a fan of it because you know me, like I'm a fan of you guys and people in general just like getting a hold of their own health and being responsible and not putting people's health on the backs of taxpayers. I don't think that's right. I think there should be like some kind of like shared responsibility and we should take care of our neighbors, but at the same time like taxing people to the hilt, especially like people who are like millionaires who have businesses. I mean, that can be crippling to people. That can be crippling to, you know, what is the motivation to open a business and make it succeed if the reward is, oh, you get to pay more taxes, you know? Like that's really demotivating. But I think that's the only thing that's going to make this whole system work. And people, I'm not saying that's going to work because it's going to make people healthier. It's going to get people what they want, the ability to go to the doctor and get the pills. Again, because they're not doing their own research and figuring out what their problem is. You know, the doctor should be like your last line of defense. The doctor should be like your last option. Like you have exhausted everything else. I mean, you have tried every supplement, you have eaten healthy, you've gone to the gym, you have stretched, you've hired a personal trainer, you've looked at every article on YouTube, and it's like you just don't have any idea. You have no idea. Like you're just so lost or you're so overwhelmed, and it's like you are like on death's door. And even then, you know, I mean, there's people who have stage 4 terminal cancer who will not do chemotherapy. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? You know, you have depression and you can't get out of bed. I mean, there's nothing physically wrong with you. It's just you have what they call a chemical imbalance that can be absolutely rebalanced with, you know, in my opinion, diet and lifestyle. Again, I know I get a lot of shit for being a little insensitive to the antidepressant community. I'm sorry. I know you're going through it. I definitely have empathy for what you're going through, but at the same time, when I hear stories about someone with stage 4 terminal cancer who is literally given a death sentence, they're told they have 3 to 6 months to live, and they say, no, I'm not gonna do chemo. You know, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna fast. I'm gonna go on a very special cleansing diet. You know, I'm gonna go on a juice fast. And by the way, that's like the only way that I think like a juice fast is probably even like effective. And I don't even say that because that's like a lot of sugar. Or you do like some kind of just water fast or something crazy. And you hear these stories about people beating stage 4 or stage 3 or stage 2 or stage 1 or whatever cancer, right? Anytime you get some kind of cancer, like that's got to be frightening, you know? Or reversing diabetes. You can do all this shit. I'm not saying in every case, but I'm saying most of the time, diabetes is like new. Like we just started getting diabetes. Oh, it's because of saturated fat, because that's what the studies say, because that's what the science says. Science is the king. Evidence-based is the king. And we don't question it. It's evidence. See, it's an abstract. I found it on the internet. No! Appeal to authority, right? Take control. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If you take control and you do the exhaustive research, and it is exhaustive, but I mean, what's your other option? Just not, and just going with whatever the doctor says, and you know the doctor's wrong, man. There's a reason why they pull these drugs off the market, because a lot of these drugs actually kill people, and the doctors don't know. They just are told by the pharmaceutical rep. They're just appealing to the authority of the pharmaceutical rep. Well, the pharmaceutical rep, why would he lie to me? He took me out golfing. He gave me and my wife tickets to a cruise ship. Why would the nice pharmaceutical rep, why would he lie to me? Or why would she lie to me? Oh, ladies, you are not innocent. Oh, no, you are not. Yeah. Stop appealing to authority. Take control of your health. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that's what that's the deal for this week, you guys. I know it was a little ranty. I know it was a little kind of all over the place, but hey, this is the Holistic A-Hole podcast. This is what we do. Thank you all for listening. If you have thoughts on this, please shoot me a line. Go on to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, leave a nice review on there. And if you haven't done this yet, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, because if you thought this was gold, well, there's 160 plus more podcasts that are even more gold, probably closer to platinum than this podcast was. So take some time, do a little holistic scroll through, and if you loved it, turn your friends onto the Old Holistic A-Hole podcast. Like when you're sitting there on the train, or in your office, or you're taking the dog for a walk, or you're sitting at the kitchen dinner table ignoring your loved ones, and they're like, "What are you listening to that you're so engulfed in?" You tell them, "I'm listening to the Holistic A-Hole podcast. In fact, as a family, because I love you so much, I'm tired of ignoring you. Why don't we all listen to this together?" And turn them all on. Turn your friends on to it. Listen to it on a long road trip, whatever it is. Get the message out there. Remember, there is a health catastrophe, a healthcare catastrophe, tidal wave coming. I know a lot of you don't like being motivated by fear. Well, you could just pretend like it's not coming. Okay, you could just live in that world and think like, "Oh, we're all going to be fine." We're not going to be fine. Ooh, take a walk outside and look at all the fat fucks walking around with eating muffins. Watch the guy sitting there sweating his ass off after walking 25 feet. Watch somebody try to walk upstairs and they can't do it. It's coming. It's here. It's here. Look at the people with those weird, bowling gloves on because they got the carpal tunnel, because they've been scrolling so much on their Facebook and on their phone that their thumb is going to literally fall off. They've literally ripped through the cartilage of the muscle on their thumb, and they don't get enough vitamin D and, magnesium and calcium and minerals to actually rehabilitate the muscle and the bone and the connective tissue. Look at it. That costs money. That costs you and me money. They're costing us money. How are we going to survive? Walk down the street, have some autistic kid just yell in your ear. 1 in 30 kids is that. How are they going to procreate? How is a kid who's 11 years old with diabetes, how is that kid going to procreate? How is humanity going to keep going? Oh my God, I'm off of it. All right, I got to let this go. I got to get out of this podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Please, please, please share the podcast. Leave a review on iTunes. You know I love you. If you're in New York City, Saturday, February 23rd, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., you can go to ConBody and see me talk. If you want to buy tickets I should mention are $25. You need to buy them before you go. You can go on to holisticahole.com/breakthrough nutrition. holisticahole.com/breakthrough nutrition. If you didn't write that down, just look in the notes in your podcast feed. I'm going to have it right there. Again, I love you, a-holes. I really, really do. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.